Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Brickyard interview series. I'm your host, Andrea Thompson, and today it is my pleasure to be speaking with Fira. Hi, Fira. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Fira. Fira, he, him, they, them, is a spoken word artist currently residing in Toronto, on the ancestral homeland of the Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people in the Dish with One Spoon territory. His experience with his first open mic sparked an intense and passionate love for how 3 minutes could move a room and uplift the soul. You know I'm going to be asking about that. His work focuses on mental health, queerness, and healing through art. He has competed at the national level on poetry slam teams for Guelph and Burlington, as well as helped organize the Canadian National Youth Poetry Festival, Voices of Today. He has also co-facilitated workshops teaching the fundamentals of poetry writing to grades 7 to 12. When not writing, he can be found on his balcony garden and playing with his 3 cats. Yay for cats. Yeah. And also, he'd love you to connect with him on Instagram. He can be found on @Fira, Fira _ Astrali. So, hi, Fira.
Hello.
Thank you for coming to chat with us today. So one of the things that I get excited about and I think about in terms of this interview series, and actually first off, I should say that this is the 3rd series, interviews of the series that we've been doing with Hot Damn. It's a queer slam Hot Damn artist. And Hot Damn is one of the best spoken word series in the country. And yeah, snap, snap, one of the best definitely happening in Toronto. So for us at Brickyard, it's a real pleasure to be able to partner and speak to some spoken word artists, some of the great artists that Hot Damn books. So jumping right in. So Fira, you've got a feature coming up right now. We're in 2023. Your feature is, a workshop coming up. Workshop on July 4th, Saturday, July 4th, 2023, from 3 to 4 p.m. And yeah, so my first question that I was thinking about, I'm always curious, I think about this channel as really a place for lovers of spoken word, of course, but also I'm really hoping that a lot of emerging artists or soon to be emerging artists will come here and get inspired and also think about how to begin their own spoken word journey. So I was like starting with the question, how did you start with spoken word? How did you get involved? And that beautiful quote that you have from your bio talking about that first experience. I'd love to hear about it.
So I actually love this story because it means a lot to me. So I was at the University of Guelph and I just happened to be walking through like the main atrium when the Guelph Slam team was performing. And so like, you know, I like writing, like I obviously, and so like I sat down to listen to them, and this one poet, Katie, gets on stage and they have this poem about gardening and mental health and all of these things. And I just started crying because I was like, oh my goodness, like there's another person in the world who understands what I'm going through, and they managed to put those feelings into words. And like there was this moment of connection that I had never experienced before. So I immediately went up, and of course I wanted to talk to them, and I wanted to know how to get involved. And I went out to the Guelph Poetry Slam, and I was super, super nervous, but I knew, like, I just knew this was something that like I had to do. And I went up and I did a poem basically about, like, I did a love poem. Because I had just started learning about like polyamory, and I just started having multiple relationships, and so I was really excited about it. And yeah, I went up on stage, and my partner, it was one of my partner's anniversaries, and yeah, I just did a love poem, and the whole crowd went wild, and it was just this exhilarating feeling of like people heard me and just loved it the way I heard KT and loved it, And it was, this great moment of connection that I could never give it up. You know what I mean? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. It's funny. There's like, at the same time as there's this public performance that's happening, I know what you mean about that kind of intimacy and that connection, that human connection. It's funny, a lot of artists talk about that as a really important spark that got them. Were you nervous? Like, did you feel that you were a performer before that, or?
No, I'm not. Like, I used to write fiction. So I was the person who was always like, I write it and then I put it out into the world. Nobody knows what I look like. Nobody knows, like, I write under a pseudonym. Nobody knows who I am. And then I get on stage and it's like, here's all my feelings. For 3 minutes, you're going to listen to me and see me. And I can't see any of you because of how bright the lights are.
Yeah.
But y'all can see me. And yeah, it was a lot to get over. Like, especially when I started competing. It was really scary. And it still is scary, especially now that, like, I haven't been performing in a couple of years because of, pandemic and everything like that. And I'm just getting back into it now. And there's definitely a lot of work to do in terms of me just being comfortable on stage. I have been told that I fake it really well, though. I've been told that I apparently look very confident on stage, and it's like, good to know that I can fake it till I make it.
Well, I think a lot of times, especially with seasoned performers, and the reason I ask, a lot of times people will make an assumption that you have to be outgoing or you have to be kind of an extrovert. But a lot of times I find that speaking to different artists, that it's learning how to channel that discomfort or terror or whatever it is into the moment. I would love to just let everybody have a sample. I've known you for a few years now, and have been a fan even before Hot Damn suggested you as a feature. So I'm really glad that we're going to get to hear some of your work, and I would love to hear a piece right now if you wanted to share.
Absolutely. I have one queued up. It's called Die for Daffodils. And it's a story poem. Like, normally I write specifically about, like, events in my life. This is more a fictional story that I've written. But it's one of my favorites that have come out of, like, the past year of my writing. So I wanted to share it first.
Nice.
Okay. Release me, slumber. There is no more to dream of. No more quiet casket eyes. No more steam-powered body. No more imitation of life. Now there is only me. A reflection of her curiosity, but still somehow more than I ever could have been without the snow and the turning wheels and the laughter of my faunish goddess. I heard her crooked playing between the axles, and the fiery crystals bit into my hands as I bent to follow her into the spring. You wished to keep me extinguished, but the snow melted around her. New grass became match head, damp and full of the spark of life arcing to my plated chest. After the grass, the daffodils came, with their soft shoulders, with their pastel insides, pushing past worship white and frozen earth bolted shut by the seasons. They came only to be yanked free by my terrible hands, dizzy as I was to make gift of my crazy wakefulness. So full of us I was that I did not think of life beyond the lively pulse of her wrist as it sat against my bare thigh, skin kissed for the first time by fresh air since taking vows and falling into your not quite death. So full of us I was that time spun on. The daffodils wilted back to their beds, and I was summoned back to mine. Each time before, the call back to you was heeded without thought, for I had never left your grip. This time, I could not once again slumber peacefully, the candle lit inside my plated shell extinguished, not with this unwrapped gift of knowing her sleeping in my lap. Ready I was to piss on my own grave when you sent them, none awake in the slush as I was, none could hear her as I did. They marched with their quiet casket eyes and their empty armor and their demand of silence. I answered with no. the word rough and heavy in my mouth as it was never meant to sit there. They answered with steel, for they could not understand my new language of life. Instead, they crushed the daffodils beneath their feet and their falling, steam-powered bodies. 2 deaths I caused, 3 graves I dug. Release me, slumber. I do not wish to remember their faces, only what we died for.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Wow. Wow. I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
It's such a gorgeous extended use of this like extended imagery. Yeah. Really lush and really, yeah, you know, this is what I remember about you. I and wanting to talk to you after, like I had that experience too, as what as somebody in the audience, that I felt connected to you, and I felt, you know, and we have to be careful with that as audience members to make sure that we give the artist their space and don't assume that we're able to connect. But we were in a more intimate kind of house party-ish performance, or maybe I couldn't resist. I don't remember what happened, but anyways.
Yeah, it was more of like a private thing.
Yeah, yeah, but you know, and we had some really great conversations about writing about really personal things, you know, like that's the thing, is that when you and this is something that we spoke about briefly just when we were chatting before the interview, about when you're able to be authentic and open like that, you create this space for other people to show up the same. So one of the things, you know, I mean, so many topics that you write about are personal. But one of the things that I've really connected with you and spoken to you about a bit, and would love for you to share a bit about now, is the importance of mental health. You know, you just showed us how beautifully you can capture this experience of grief. Like, why do you think you personally have been drawn to mental health, and why do you think it's an important thing for artists to tackle and write about?
So the reason that I personally try to tackle mental health as much as I do is because I feel like there needs to be more space to just talk and be authentic and be honest without having to worry about what people are going to think about you. I remember one of my first poems I ever wrote was basically about medication stigma. And I had someone come up to me afterwards and be like, hey, like I just started a new medication and I really needed to hear that tonight, that like what I'm doing is what I need to do, and it's okay. And I think that's the big thing about, like, if you have lived experience with mental health and you are in a place where it's safe for you to discuss it and weave it into your art, I think it's so beneficial, because there's so many people out there who are like, oh, I don't want to, like, you know, I don't want to be popping pills, or like I don't want to go to like therapy because it means there's something wrong with me. And like there's all these stigmas, you know what I mean? And it's like, I've had so many people be like, I heard you speak on it and then it was safer for me to do it. And I've had that also with like gender and queerness and things of that nature. But especially for people like I don't talk specifically about some of my like diagnoses as I plan to in some of my future works, but I feel like there's a lot of mental illnesses where it's not, how do I say, it's not okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like anxiety and depression and those sort of things are like, I feel like are getting to be more accepted, but there's certain things like borderline and bipolar and things of that nature that are still considered to be like scary.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's really important for people who feel safe to be like, yeah, I have borderline and I'm an artist and I'm doing the things I love to do with my life. And like being a role model for the people who, because at the beginning of your mental health road is always going to be a lot. And to have people that you can look to and be like, oh, there's stops along the way to how this gets better. And the stigma is not the only way that this is going to end.
Yeah.
And I think that was the big thing for me, is like I wanted to be really open, because I ended up with a really great life, and like a really great, like I have like wonderful partners and things of that nature, and it's like things can be different than the way the stigma tells you it will be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it was something that I was thinking about too, because I know that you've been when I don't know, I mean, maybe because I'm an old lady, but when I met you, I thought about you. I had in my mind of you as an emerging artist, and then reviewing your bio before we met today, seeing all of the work that you're doing with youth, and knowing the power, the healing power of your work. I thought, like, that's great. That's really important, and I think, I know you're going to be doing some really great work in creating space for young people. But I'm wondering about, how it is. I guess I got a whole bunch of questions. I'm just going to throw them all in the pot, and you can pull out whichever one is resonating with you. But I was wondering about like what it's been like for you making that transition from, an emerging younger artist to one more emerging artist to, now you're in a mentorship role and you're doing lots of teaching, and how that was for you, and also how you navigate that that place of kind of like having having the privilege of being able to create space for young people, but also, is that a responsibility? Is that a burden for you? You're so unflinching. You're so emotionally generous. And I wonder about, like, how does that take from you? Does that become difficult at times? Is it easier to write than it is to perform? Okay, that's enough questions. I'll let you just
So I never really saw myself as transitioning from emerging to mentor. Like, I still feel like an emerging artist, because like I still see all the things that I still have that I want to do and that I haven't done yet. But I mean, like, I feel like that's always sort of, people are always like looking for the next thing and not really respecting what the steps they've taken to get there. But yeah, like, I don't know, the mentorship role was just sort of like, it just made sense to me. It's like, I have these skills, it makes sense to pass them on to people who want them. And that's the thing of like, I'm an extrovert, so I get a lot of energy from people who are interested. And like, if you want to learn, I get energy from teaching.
Cool.
So yeah, so for me, it's, the only thing is like, sometimes I feel like I get a little too overzealous, and then I have too many things on my plate. And like, I think that's also an artist thing to do, of just being like, yeah, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to do all these things. And it's like, oh wow, I haven't slept. So I find that like the burden is more myself overcommitting than it is anything that I've been asked to do.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other question was, what is writing easier than performing?
Yeah.
Writing is so much easier than performing. Writing is so much. Because like, writing, it to me is like, it just comes out of me, and then I work it into whatever shape I want it to be in. But like, when I'm practicing, or when I'm reciting it for like friends and family and stuff like that, it's sort of like, it's very low stakes. Performing always feels very high stakes. And I mean, like, when you say perform, I immediately go to slam. And so like, that's obviously very high stakes. But now I think about, like, for example, like performing, like when I perform like this poem that I just did, or when I'm doing it where it's like not a competitive nature, I would say that definitely changes how I feel. And I would say that I think it's equally as enjoyable to write as it is to perform when I'm not competing, when I'm just there to share and connect with people. I would say that like, it's still scary, but it's definitely a lot more, it's about the art. And it's about the people that are going to come up to me afterwards. That's the thing, is like performing means that people are going to come up and talk to me afterwards, and that's always really exciting for me.
Going back to that connection, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, slam. I don't know. I'm like, how did I ever do that? Because now it's like very intimidating. There's a lot of adrenaline and there's a lot at stake, but I don't think there's anything that makes you a better performer than, you know, that's the best, that the stage and being in that competitive environment. There's no better teacher.
Well, that's the thing, is like, that's why I ended up, like, I would write, like, because there's 2 rounds, so I would write 2 new poems every month, and I would be there and I would be practicing, and I would, you know, and like I wanted to be on the team, so like it really did push me. And like I do want to go back to slam. It's just I'm still getting back into the habit of doing the writing and being out. It's actually more, I'm getting used to being in small spaces with a lot of people. I'm very out of practice with that, and also I found that like my level for like overstimulation has like come down considerably, so like it's very easy for like the music to be too much, or like all the people. And like that's one thing about slam, is it's not super conducive to people who have sound sensitivities.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why I've actually been really enjoying all of the online content and like all the online slams and stuff like that, because I feel like it's very accessible.
Yeah. But, and I don't know if we mentioned this, but your workshop is online, so
yes,
which makes it great because people from all around the world can check it out. So
yeah.
Okay, speaking of checking it out, let's hear another piece if you're up to it.
Okay, so this time, do you want a poem about basically, I recently, about a year or 2 ago, I left, I had to leave a living arrangement that I had, and it's kind of about that. Or I have one that is about sort of like body autonomy, which is like kind of it's kind of like a topic that's on everybody's minds right now. So
well, let's go for that then. If you enjoy reading it, I always think it's better to do something that you're into, but if you are, that sounds great.
Okay, so this one's called Temple to a False God. How many poems will I hear about a man who learned to respect women when he had a daughter? And I will look to his wife, his mother, and wonder if they think too hard about it like I do. If it also makes them feel like this body is a moving thing. Sometimes it does not belong to me, this skin, a canvas to other people's expectations, other people's desires, other people's hands. And sometimes it belongs too much to me. So much to me that those hands and those desires become my responsibility, become my growing womb. Even if I said no, even if I didn't, it does not matter that this piece of me does not belong in this body. This intruder to an off-the-shelf system needing aftermarket modification to make it my home, but I cannot make it mine in case a real man wants to find a home in it. My body is a temple, but the resident God is not me. 30 is too young to know what you want the sacred space to look like. What if you give up your only job as a vessel to a higher power's goals? What if your husband wants children someday? Because of course I have a husband. Because of course he wants children. Because of course this body belongs to his future and not my present. I am not an ark to anyone but myself. My personhood is more important than a someday son who will also not respect me. I am here now, and I deserve a body I can rest in. A body that is mine before it is anyone else's. But if I cannot move through the world without the spider silk of 1,000 eyes and 1,000 hands tangling in my eyelashes, let me at least shed them like moon blood, as is my right. Given to me by the forces that shaped this body, if I am to bleed, let me bleed for myself.
Wow. Where am I? Here I am. Wow, that was beautiful. So many gorgeous metaphors. I just got lost there for a second. Thank you.
Yeah, I meant to do some content warning beforehand, but.
Okay, well, we'll put something below. I'll make
okay. Yeah, because there's sort of like bodily autonomy. Well, like wombs and transmasculine feelings towards wombs, and menstruation, I would say, is the.
Okay, making notes. Okay. Wow, thank you. Okay, so I guess we're wrapping up. I'd love to hear a little bit about what you're planning for your workshop on the 4th.
Yeah, so my plan for the workshop is basically, well, it's called Writing is Hard Now What? And it's sort of like, I don't know if other people go through this, but for me, like when I first started, it was like I was banging out poem after poem after poem. And then after a while, it just got harder and harder to put out content. And basically, I wanted to go over some of the things that I found help me make content. Specifically, there's a technique I learned called clustering, which is like kind of like mind mapping, but a little bit different. And I find it really helpful to sort of get all of my thoughts on one topic together, and it makes for, I find, stronger poems. Like Die for Daffodils was a product of clustering.
Cool.
Yeah, and so I find that it makes more like cohesive poems. There was that, and then I also wanted to talk about sort of finding your own rhythm to write, because like a lot of people are like, oh, you have to read and write every day. It's like, okay, but like people who like have children, or have like a full-time job, or like are disabled and things of that nature, like we can't all do that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about finding the right rhythm for you that you'll stick to, rather than the one that you think you should have because you want to be a writer.
Yes. The prescription.
Yeah, exactly. And like I just want to spend a lot of time making space for people and to be getting advice that's like, make it fit you rather than try to fit what you think you should be doing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I want to go. It sounds great. It's like content
really
and process, right? Like,
yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah, and I'm hopefully gonna, we're gonna do a couple clustering exercises and then get people to share and stuff like that. So
nice. So if you've never performed before, this is your chance.
Yes.
Awesome. And we've already seen is able to create a really nice open space, welcoming space, gentle, nurturing space, I would say. So thank you. Thank you for coming and sharing your beautiful heart and your beautiful work with us. So there's going to be a link box below here, and we'll put your Instagram. So please reach out to him and let Fira know what's going on. Say hello. If you want to find out more about the workshop and just about Hot Damn in general, check them out at Hot Damn. It's a queer slam, is at queerslam.com. And please like, share, subscribe, so we can just keep going and have more content, and you're supporting artists. And I mean, if you like it, hang out here with us all the time. We're going to have at least a couple more features, I think. Oh, no, maybe just one more. Anyways, there's more interviews coming, more features coming. We're going to be having, actually coming up, here's a sneak peek. In the fall, we're going to be doing a mental health showcase, which we just found out about recently. So we're going to start a little mental health playlist, and Fira, you're going to be in there too. So,
awesome.
And some different kind of like, it's a project called Intersectional Poetica. We're going to have some different celebrations of different demographics. So looking forward to that. And I guess that's it. Thank you for joining us. Thanks again, Fira, and have a great day.